Hello,
Hi.
Chelsey. Welcome. I am here with Chelsey Mollin today. She is a holistic life coach and a licensed acupuncture and acupuncturist and so much more. Like I see you as a goddess in the female realm. I have to be honest. Like you are such a genius. And I just am so excited to have you on today because I want our community to get a little taste of what you do and who you are and see the soul that you are. I mean, seriously, Chelsey. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for that amazing introduction. And I'm just excited to chat with you. I always love to talk with you. So it's really beautiful to get the opportunity to sit down and do this with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell you, we'll get into a little bit about how we cross paths. We're both in a similar space here in Syracuse and seeing similar clients and talking about similar-ish things. So I'd always known of you, but it really wasn't until it was probably
summertime
last year that I had gone to you. And, a lot of the nutrition that I had been taught was from an eating disorder model. So it was like, here are your carbs, here are your proteins, here are your vegetables. And so when you're coming from a recovery space, you really look towards other things to guide you because you can't trust the internal clock inside of you. And so I had always had that voice in the back of my head. And I continued to eat that way over the past, 10 years in recovery. But also I got myself to a place of, I guess, pretty burned out, but I didn't realize it was that. And it was lack of energy. It was getting myself where I felt like I was running, and then I was crashing. And I had incredibly light periods. I think it was 1 to 2 days. And you had come up at an ad, and I was like, that's who I need. That's what I need. So tell me a little bit before we dig into sort of the clients you see in some of my story. Tell me what drew you to this type of work.
Well, I always had been interested in natural health and just sort of always drawn to that. And, my journey really started way back when I was, still a teenager in high school, interested in yoga and meditation and herbs. And it just really sparked interest in me. And it very much for me was a hobby. It wasn't something I necessarily saw as a path or something to study. And then when I got to my first year of college, I kind of just had the only way I can describe it as an aha moment. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what I wanted to do to study. It was 5 weeks into my first semester of at school studying, liberal arts, and as one does, I just had this aha moment. Oh, you could actually go do this and, study this. So that, led me on a path towards studying acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine. So, I stayed the course of undergrad, went to go do that in grad school. And my interest there really lied in herbal medicine and just nature as medicine and just how incredible the body is and how self-healing the body is and using natural practices to heal and have health. So that's kind of the beginning of things. And, spend my time at school. And then after school, that's when things started to really take on a life of their own, really a more interest in lifestyle and mindset, and really passionate about healing through what we're doing every day and who we're being every day. And that's very much colored by my own experience and, what allowed me to heal chronic health issues and, maintain optimal levels of health. So what I do with my clients and, what I try to impart on people is very much, colored by my own experience and, what helped me in the end, because I think, and I know I'm sure you can relate to this, and many people listening, is, we look for something to help. And I very much kind of did that song and dance for years and years, both in school and then out of school, of just searching for the perfect kind of medicine, acupuncture treatment, massage therapist, chiropractor, herbal formula, diet, like what is going to be kind of the magic formula to save me. And it wasn't until I was able to really let that go and take a strong look inwards to, how I was contributing to those health problems and those patterns. And that was really profound and radical and fast shift for me. So that's really what, just cultivating that inner medicine and unlocking the natural self-regulation of the body. So, that's sort of what I do and what my work is about.
I think it's just incredible that you studied Chinese medicine, right out of college. I was so lost at that time of my life. It's like for you to be like, yes, this is what I want to do. And there are so very few. I know no one else that has studied Chinese medicine. And living over in China and experiencing some of the culture, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And it makes so much sense, why they do things the way they do. So can you explain, what are some of the big differences when you're looking at Western culture versus Chinese culture and Chinese medicine culture? What are some of the big, differences between those two?
Yeah, I would say definitely a connection to nature. Chinese medicine looks at the body as a microcosm to the macrocosm of the planet, and we very much mirror what's going on in nature. So it sort of transcribes nature, and how does this apply to the body? And I would say that Chinese medicine is also about the person as a holistic system. So in Western medicine, we separate everything, right? It's you have your brain, you have your heart, you have your GI tract, you have your head. But in Chinese medicine, but also just all lenses of holistic medicine, see the body as a system, and one system is influencing the next. And if one system is affected, the other system is affected. So it's really about restoring. It's less about fixing a problem and more about restoring function to the system so that the system can take care of that on its own.
Wow.
And also about conserving energy and preserving life. So in Chinese medicine, you call it nourishing life. So, you have this essence to you. Of course, you're alive. It's your eternal energy, your vitality. But you also get energy from things, from sunlight and food and sleep and relationships. So how can you add energy to the body so that you don't have to take from it? And you are familiar with that.
I'm familiar.
We talked of that, right?
Yeah, just a bit. Okay, so what do you think are some of the major things that in Western culture take from our energy sources?
Absolutely a disconnection from nature. Okay. We live inside, spend a lot of time inside, and of course, it's not everybody, but most people we go to school from a young age. We go through the school system. We're inside most of the day, and then we go to college, and we're inside most of the day, and then we go to work, and we're inside most of the day. Where historically, we spent just more time outside. Artificial light, all the computers and the screens, our routines, and just kind of the average life and, family system. It's just kind of go, 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 go. There's, people don't have time to really cook nourishing foods and, be at home and eat at home. And, that's very layered, of course. We could talk about just that forever, but the quality of our food, our food systems, mental health, are just our ability to regulate ourselves and, how we think about emotions. We're so, as a society, we're so uncomfortable with discomfort, and that's really where you grow and heal. So I would say that's, one of the biggest gaps in Western medicine with all its, advancements and technology and benefits. For chronic illness, it's all about masking disease, right? So people just want to sort of have a quick solution to a problem and not really put in the energy and the time to really get to the root and heal things. And when we do that, we just drive the problem deeper into the body. We cause more problems. So going through that process, it requires you to be present with yourself, to, look at your own contributions to things and to look at your lifestyle. And, a lot of people, they don't want to do that.
They don't want to do that.
So they kind of turn a blind eye to it, and you have to want to heal. So yeah.
It's like things have to get bad enough for most people.
Yeah, and a lot of people do wait until they're really sick to heal, and that's fine. You can do that, but you can also, take radical action when you have painful periods and when your skin's breaking out and when you're tired. And, the body can sustain so much, so it can really go years and decades, being fine, kind of what we consider to be normal or healthy. And then, get a diagnosis of something later in life. But it's just, it doesn't have to be that way. We're meant to live like a life of vitality and strength and feel good and really thrive in our bodies. And I think such a big piece of that is that we've normalized dysfunction and poor health so much. So people are just like, oh, you're tired, your period sucks, like, oh, I'm just getting older, stuff like that, you know, but that's really, it's common, but that's not really normal or our natural essence.
That's what I was going to say too. It's like we actually have forgotten what it feels like to feel good in our body, to feel alive, to feel energized. And so we're reaching for things that help us do that, right? It's like things that provide us that energy, those bursts, or even it's dopamine in many ways, right? Those dopamine hits that are going to make us feel better for short periods of time, because we've gotten the balance so out of balance that we've forgotten what it feels like to feel good.
Yeah, most people don't know how good you're really supposed to feel, and we sort of just settle. And I think there's almost this perception that a healthy lifestyle is like the side thing or like a hobby almost, which for some people it is, like maybe somebody like me who, has a lot of interest in that. But health is a byproduct of who we are and what we do every day. So there has to be a prioritization of that. And we sort of have grown up with this image of convenience. It's like Pop-Tarts out the door, like kind of thing. And we sort of just kind of grow accustomed to that. So this, I think for a lot of people the idea of, putting time and energy into your health can seem overwhelming. And it's really just a byproduct of society that's really kind of, I don't know if it's intentionally designed that way, but it is the byproduct of how we live. And so, yeah, health really is that byproduct of who we're being. So,
yeah. And I think we have so much being thrown at us too, of like a quicker fix, like take this supplement, do this, like it's all over, what are people doing? What is the latest fad? That it's so easy to want to jump onto those things to take away the pain, like for a little bit, or to make it seem better for a little bit. But what I have found is so many of those things mask what's really going on, the root of all of it, and I know coming to you, it was like the state of burnout I had just gotten so used to, like I didn't know any different. And I think we can talk about it from a lens of the nervous system. We can talk about it, through a few different lenses, but that fight or flight, that going was like giving me a constant dopamine, like, but then I'd crash and I'd sleep all day, or I'd have these periods where I'd have to completely hibernate. And I just gotten so used to that cycle that I didn't really think anything was wrong with it. It's just how I thought I functioned. Until I came to you. Yeah,
it's so much survival energy. And I remember you and I had discussed, look at all you've created at this state of burnout. Like we said, your body really can sustain so much stress. Yeah. You built so much, and imagine what you could create from a place of overflow. And to speak even to what you shared earlier about eating disorder treatment, and it's so much survival energy. It's like when you're in that active state, the body's in survival, but then the treatment is also, how can we get this person to a better place? And that's like very necessary at the time. And then, what happens after that? Like, how do we build and, create that level of overflow? And that was very much like a lot of the work we did together around, coming away from that survival paradigm and allowing for that.
Absolutely. And I felt like I was going back to school with you, to tell you the truth. Like, when it comes to nutrition, the model that I had been taught, and then what I think I had slowly adapted to, the amount of food I was eating, the types of food I was eating, they all needed an overhaul. You shifted so much. And I remember the first time you handed me my breakfast, like the outline of my breakfast, and I was like, there's no way, Chelsey, there's no way. But I remember within a week, the way I felt, I actually lost weight. Like my body was adjusting in this way of like you giving it so much protein in the morning and so much food to start the day off that I was like, is this how I'm supposed to feel? Because this is amazing. And so I was just shocked what my body actually needed and then how it responded when I started to give it that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really illustrates that point. Most people don't even know, how good we're supposed to feel, and you become so accustomed to just getting through. And that also, overflows to so many treatment plans. It's like people are sick or people have symptoms, and it's really just about, making it through the day, or like, let's just, people are like, well, I can't do that. I have to work, or I have to do this. And of course, and that's, where that just societal, kind of conditioning comes in. But yeah, your health is everything, right? It's like the foundation. And when you have your health, which you've experienced, everything just flows out of that, right? Because you have energy.
It's the foundation. Is the foundation of everything. And now realizing the people, places, and things that take that energy from me, and starting to eliminate them or at least boundary them up. And the foods, I totally had an addiction to sugar. And what I realized was, I think it was because for so long I didn't allow myself those foods. And then I was like, no, I want to eat ice cream whenever I want to eat ice cream. But then I found what it was doing was it was giving me that hit because I was crashing midday, or I was crashing and I needed something because I wasn't fueling my body in the way I should have been fueling my body. But I created all this other narrative around it. I'd be like, no, I deserve ice cream when I want ice cream. But really I was addicted to the effects of the sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very real thing. Addiction to.
And now I can see it in my son at times where he'll go, I know he's tired, but the first thing he'll go is into the pantry to grab something with some sort of sugar because he's crashing. It's we don't even know we've trained our bodies to do this in a way.
Absolutely. It's like any other drug pathway. It's all neurotransmitter, and it makes total sense. So I think taking away there's so much emotion and shame and all these other things that come into that play. But if you can sort of step back and see just the very physicality of it and the pathways, it's oh yeah, that makes sense that I feel that way, or I go that way, or crave that. And food is this really interesting thing in modern times because we have so much access to it. And you mentioned dopamine, right? So, we're all so dopamine overload. Our phones, access to anything at any time. So we have dopamine overload, which leads to our dopamine receptors being totally fried. So a lot of us, our pleasures, warped, depression, anxiety, all the things that come along with that. So there's this one side of this one, end of the spectrum. It's where we're only eating for pleasure, and it's that addiction piece. And then there's the other way where it's we're only eating for survival, and it's super strict, and you hate what you're eating, and want to be somewhere in the middle where you are, because we do derive pleasure from food and from eating, so we don't want to totally be void of that. But we also want to be, having energy and that positive dopamine and health response from eating. So it's hanging out, swinging, just nice here in the middle, where it feels good physically, mentally, emotionally, all the things. And I think it's very natural for people to swing one way and then kind of swing the other way as they're navigating that, and then, hopefully land somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
For balance, of course.
Yeah. No, I like that way of thinking about it. Because I do think that we're constantly seeking that dopamine hit. We're now so accustomed to it with our phones, with the constant. And I was listening to a podcast the other day where it was we used to have to work so hard to get those dopamine hits. We'd have to go out and kill an animal. We'd have to go out and like put so much effort in to creating a connection with a human being and getting that dopamine hit. And now it's like all right here. It's all on our phones. And so we're getting it so quickly that we're just burning out. And so I do see how food was that for me too. Like it's interesting how it's maladaptively hit a bunch of different areas for me, but it's been a coping strategy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it's also guaranteed. It's like same with the phone. It's like, like, okay, if I do this, I'll feel this way. And it becomes such an unconscious pattern that you just gravitate towards.
Yeah, I do see, I think, as in working in the eating disorder world now, the plethora of teens that I am seeing, the increase in eating disorder behaviors, but also there is this generation around our age of women that grew up in just such a fat-free world, Weight Watchers, sort of Britney Spears time frame, that still carry significant trauma around their bodies and thoughts and ideas and beliefs. And so when someone like that walks into your office, Chelsey, you handled me with such care. Like, how do you approach that in a way? Because a lot of people, I think they're afraid to admit they have disordered eating, or they're afraid that like they don't want to be labeled that anything is wrong. So how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think definitely everybody is so different. So, a big piece of the work that I do is really getting to know people and like their history and their family. So, understanding why do they do that, or why do they feel that way, or who else is influencing that in the family or relationship. So, gathering as much information as I can to help in like the most effective, loving, appropriate way. And really starting where somebody's at. So, for you, for example, you had, you were very aware, you know a lot, you've been through a lot in regards to eating, and like, so think of somebody who was totally unaware of those patterns. So like the first step is really, bringing things to somebody's attention versus, taking action on it. But I think awareness is such medicine. So, helping people understand, maybe why they're behaving a certain way. And, that can uncover a lot in its own, but helping people understand why their body is doing something. So, a great example is, if someone has light periods and they're not eating enough, it's like real simple. Okay, there's something wrong with you. There's just this pattern happening here. So yeah, I think it really depends on the person, but mostly, starting with them where they're at and approaching everything, and also encouraging them to approach everything from it's like a place of we're trying to help, let's figure out what's going on, a really curious and open heart, and really helping people understand that there's nothing wrong with them. And even if they do have, habits that aren't serving them, helping them understand that the habits are just trying to protect them. And
right.
The body, the mind, everybody's just trying to help. So really emphasizing that everything is working for you, even if it's from a place of survival. And how can we cross that bridge too? If we need to first be in that survival energy, sometimes that is just where somebody is at. But where can we go, and how can we build on this to create that abundant, optimal health? Mm-hmm. Assuming that's what they also desire.
Yeah. No, even your energy, you're so gentle and you're so safe. Like, you're so safe because you think about these topics that we're bringing. And a lot of us have either seen other providers or have other issues when it comes to like, this hasn't been handled with care in the past, And so you are just so gentle in your approach with dealing. And so I'm just so lucky to find you. But you brought up periods, where this was the other part of me that was like, oh my gosh, how do I not know this at the age of 41, right? So periods and exercise, periods, and can you go through the 4 stages first and foremost, and really what within each week you should be doing for your body? Like it may be some changes in diet, like what that kind of looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So you essentially have two halves of the cycle. So the first half is your follicular phase when you get your period, leading through ovulation. So that's essentially like not entirely your fertile window, but leading up to it. And then you have the second half of your cycle, which is your luteal phase. So it's after you crossed over the fertilization window and you're moving towards either a potential conception or having your period. And you just kind of cycle through that over and over again until you don't. So you can break that down even a little further. So the first half of the cycle can be broken up into 3 subcategories. So you have menstruation when you're actively bleeding. You have follicular phase, which is that kind of all-encompassing of day 1 through about midway of the cycle. And then ovulation, which is physically a really, really short window of time we're actually releasing that egg. But I tell my clients the energy of ovulation, extends beyond that short window, a few days before and a few days after. So once you cross over ovulation, you enter into the second half of the cycle, which, like I said, is leading towards a possible pregnancy or the period. So during the first half of your cycle, everything is ruled by fertility, whether you're trying to get pregnant, not trying to get pregnant, really want a baby, have no desire to have a baby. Everything's ruled biologically by fertility. So there's that drive for fertilization. So everything is kind of ruled by that energetically. So think of, like the energy in the summertime when you're just in a good mood for no reason, like the sun is out. That's kind of the energy of like follicular phase into ovulation. So think if you lived in nature, you're biologically driven to go out and socialize, to be intimate, you need less to sustain you, like in this fertile energy. And then once that's over, once you cross over, you start to go into this more like autumn energy of like you're either preparing for menstruation or you're preparing for to carry a baby for 9 months. So in that space, it's like if you think about it biologically, it's like, okay, you went out, maybe had the opportunity to conceive, and then that's over, and then it's like preparing for what's next. So in terms of how that affects people in a healthy person, if you will, that, just looks like a change in energy, a change in emotion. Your metabolism totally flip-flops, and I'll share the other side of that as well. So your energy output decreases and your energy input increases. So you need more and you do less. So you need more to sustain less. On the opposite side of that is that, follicular ovulation energy, where it's the exact opposite. You have more energy to give, but you need less to sustain it. So think summer. You're like outside, you're playing, it's fun. You just like feel good eating fruit and drinking water. And it's a lot different than like winter, where if you were outside, you're like, I need soup, I need cocoa, all these things. So yeah, you have more energy to give. And so that's going to look like higher desire to socialize, more desire to get things done, motivation, just feeling, really energized in your body. So that's kind of the 101 of things. But the most important thing to know is that you're always fluctuating and always changing. And that's really a gift of, having a menstrual cycle is you're always shifting and always evolving. So a big disconnect for women, if they aren't aware of that, is having this idea of being like static. It's like, oh, I had a really great workout. I felt amazing, got all this work done today. And then, 5 days later, it's like, oh, I feel different. Understanding that can be so medicinal and valuable just to navigate your life and your energy and all layers of life. And especially, where a lot of women struggle in their health, and really at the root of a lot of like menstrual dysfunction is being out of alignment with that, especially, metabolically, just because your needs change calorically. And so many women are on diets or like trying to lose weight. And when you don't consider that hormonal piece, it's just hormonal chaos. And when the body's in chaos, it's not safe to lose weight emotionally or physically. So yeah, considering all of that, and it's all quite simple and subtle, when you really just allow it to be. Mm-hmm. So it's just living in alignment with yourself. And once women start to do that, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well, it just makes sense and you feel it in your body. So it's one thing for me to tell you that. It's another thing to go out and observe it in your own body. And that's how it becomes, intuitive. And you already know all of that on an innate level. So it's really just like remembering it. And
it's going back to it.
Yeah.
It's going back to it. And yeah, I think we create so many rules around food. And I do see that where a man can structure his 24-hour cycle very differently than our 28-day cycle, right? And so eating the same foods and having the same workout every single day, meal planning, that structure. And I do remember being what is wrong with me that I'm hungrier some days? There are days where I feel like I got it strapped in, this, I'm doing really good. And then there are days where it feels like it totally fall off the wagon, completely. And what you're saying is that's normal. And so ideally we need to be so in tune to that cycle inside of ourselves to expect it in ways that there's going to be days where we feel we're getting things done and we are, social beings. And then there are days where we don't want to leave the house. So, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more you can be connected to that, the better, because you have an inner compass that's driving, things like appetite and energy. And there's nuance to that. There is a time, where it's mind over matter and a workout or something like that. Because that chatter in the brain doesn't always have our best interests in mind in terms of our full capacity for joy and all these things. But the more you tune into that inner compass, the more you know what is that chatter and what is the truth, and allowing yourself to get to know what that voice is. And because when there's so much, like you said, noise and fear around food and how things should look, but if you're following a protocol and you are not eating enough and you're hungry and you don't listen to that, that's going to cause problems. And vice versa. If you ate and you still have if you're following My Fitness Pal or something like that, and you're supposed to meet this quota, but you're not hungry for it, it's so confusing to the body, because the body is a well-oiled machine, a choreographed dance. It has, when it gets what it needs, it has all these signals and, processes. So when you override that because of something logical versus intuitive, things get real funky in the body.
It makes so much sense. But I feel so many people are disconnected from that intuitiveness.
Totally. It's, everything about life and medicine and school is designed to draw you away from that and look at, what's this, recommendation, or what did this person say? So if that it could not drive that home enough more, as your body knows. So the more you can tune into that, the healthier you'll be, the better that you'll feel. And there's also nothing wrong if you don't feel like you have that. It's just a product of life, modern life and society. So it's a lot of allowance, because it's I tell my clients, because there's always the landscape of health and nutrition is always changing, always controversial. And if you're tuned into everything, it's you'll go crazy. So a lot of times, I tell people I'm working with things and they'll say, oh, well, I heard this from somebody else. And I'm like, that's great. Let's talk about it. Because, at the end of the day, I want people to be able to take from everything, people, books, podcasts, documentaries, that we live in the age of information. But at the end of the day, it's taking all of that and then having their own thoughts or opinions on it, having a basic understanding of their body. So they're not constantly swayed. It's I'm eating this way this day, but I heard on Instagram you're not supposed to do this, so now I'm going to go over here. And people really do that. And
I know.
We're so influenced. And so if you can just kind of quiet that and take it for what it is, it's great to learn and see contrast and hear other opinions, but then also coming back to yourself and knowing. And really your body is the most imperative and accurate source of information. So if someone's telling you eat this and do this, but you don't feel good and you have all these symptoms, and that's not working for you. But if you do X, Y, and Z, even if someone says, oh, like that's not right, but you're healed. And, that's like simplifying something like very nuanced. Then, that's informative to you that you're moving in the right direction or like you're doing the right thing. So, it's not a one size fits all thing.
No, and you can't compare yourself to anybody else. It doesn't, it's a very introspective like process. And I remember you said like, I had to give myself permission over and over again to rest, to eat more than I thought I should be eating, to not eat or to eat less on days that I wasn't feeling it, to move my body in different ways, to find other ways of feeling good, being outside more. Like it was just like continuously telling myself, I'm giving you permission to do this, right? Because doing anything outside of the norm, anything outside of what we've gotten so conditioned, it feels uncomfortable. So I think people should expect to feel uncomfortable. It should be. I mean, scary is a word I use. Like it was scary because there is control in the day-to-day that you set up, but really what I found was that it was all external control that I was trying to create because inside I was feeling a certain way.
Yeah. And you have so much power. And I think accepting that and like owning that can be scary because it's a lot of responsibility to really own all the power and be in control of your body and your health and your life. I think a lot of people avoid that. And there's so much fear in how we think about disease and medicine as well. So when you start to go outside of that as well, I think that also can like stir things up for people. And, when you start to really trust your body, it's anything that's change is alarms to the brain. And people will, spend lifetimes, we all do this, but like just suffering because of like fear of the unknown and fear of like your own power and all that, which can feel kind of heady, I think, to really get into that, but it really is. We all do that in some regard.
Absolutely. I was having that conversation with a friend the other day because it was like, we pull ourselves back into suffering because at least we know the outcome to that. Exactly. At least we know what that feels like. But this, it's like an groundedness in ways. Like you're afraid this feeling is gonna end, and so it's like at least I can pull myself back to this because I know the outcome. So
yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about acupuncture, how you got interested in that. And then for anybody that's interested or hasn't tried it, like kind of what to expect and what is happening, like what is happening in the body as you're doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So acupuncture is the insertion of super, super tiny needles on various points of the body. And it essentially puts you into a state of rest and relaxation where you can turn off the signals for disease and turn on the signals of health. So it puts your body into a state where it can rest enough where it can tune into its own self-regulation. So you can think of the body as like it's got all these like rivers flowing through it, and when the water's flowing through the rivers, everything's good. You're fertile, you sleep, you have energy, your skin's clear, digestion's functioning properly. And then when something happens that disrupts the water flow, whether it's an injury or a traumatic event or a dietary disturbance or, chronic stress, you start to get a dam in one of the rivers. And over time, if it doesn't get, addressed, the dam builds up and the water flow just keeps getting more stuck and more stuck. So you can think of what acupuncture does. It kind of comes in and it like releases the dam and lets the water flow through. So it's really just putting your body, allowing for your body to do what it does best, which is to heal and self-regulate. So what people can expect in a typical acupuncture session is just to kind of take what we call like a little acupuncture nap. It's relaxing, really feels restorative, and it can be a really great adjunctive therapy like when people are making changes and really, healing from the root. It sort of gives the body like just a support system. So I always tell people, like when it comes to acupuncture and herbs and really any modality, it's like your body actually does all of this on its own. Like it can do this, by thought alone, by action alone, by energy alone. And these can serve as like support systems. And I always, like to talk about that because I just want people to understand how powerful they are. And that they're capable of so much. And things like acupuncture and herbs and other like physical modalities are sort of like little pushes along the way. It's like kind of just bridges the gap and like makes the bridge a little shorter to get from point A to point B.
Okay.
And it's great to have support and help along the way.
Oh, 100%. Because I think it gives you an idea of like, I remember it is the most incredible rest that I've ever received. Like you fall, and every time is different. So you fall into it, and then it's like, I remember you coming in and being like, I don't even know where I went. Like, I don't even know. And it's the simplest of things. Like I look forward to it every single time. But you also don't realize that what rest feels like until like, I'm like, wow, like the intensity of it and what you feel as you emerge from it and clarity that comes at times. Like, so yes, I encourage the help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said every time is different because it's so true. It's like sometimes people fall asleep. Sometimes people dream. Some people travel somewhere else in their mind. Sometimes it goes by fast. Sometimes it goes by slow. And, there's so much that impacts that. But it's definitely one of those things that has a cumulative effect, which you experience when you came week by week. But yeah, it really, definitely a powerful restoration practice.
So what type of clients do you see? What type of clients are reaching out? Like if someone is saying, okay, I'm interested in this, like tell me a little bit more about what your client space is and then how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope this is okay. Are we good on?
Yeah.
The work that I do is mostly in one-on-one programs, which is how you and I work together. So really cultivating a container of time and space where, we have your goals outlined and we're committed to meeting those goals and most importantly, setting yourself up for long-term success towards those goals. So I run things that way for a couple of reasons. One, because there's something really, really powerful when somebody decides to do something and like set forth on themselves and like making that commitment to themselves. And the energy of a decision is just so powerful and it rearranges energy. So like when somebody enters into one of my programs, there's just something like really profound and powerful around that. And it also, I like to really help people change and like very results driven. So having like a set amount of time where we have the space and the time and the resources to accomplish that, is really important. So I work with people on their lifestyle or mindset, nutrition, hormonal health, and of course, like we discussed, the herbal medicine and the acupuncture as a support. And I definitely work mostly with women. I do work with men as well, but I would say mostly women and really anybody who wants to heal can. So that's definitely an important attribute to somebody. They don't have to know how that's going to happen, and they can be confused and scared and, have resistance. But I would say, that desire has to be there to change and to want to get better and to, overcome symptoms and, to just really heal from the root. So does that answer your question?
Yes, totally answered it. Because I can imagine you see a variety. Like I came in thinking it was one thing and then realizing it was so much more, And so I was really attuned to the nutrition end, but also realizing like I had so little knowledge about my cycle. And I was doing HIIT workouts every day. I was not taking off time for menstruation. I was just like sticking to a schedule. And so it was not just about the food. It was so many areas. And so I am sure that many come in thinking it's one thing and then realizing that it's tied into the whole system, like you said.
Yeah, that happens all the time, I think. And maybe this is something that will evolve for me personally, but I find that there's really no way to like market or explain like really what it's all about. And then people get in there and they're like, whoa, this is like really detailed. Or like I'll do their health history and they'll be like, whoa, like I just told you like my whole life story, and which I'm like is such an honor to like be able to connect with people in that way. But yeah, we really get into it, and the more detailed things can be, and like the bigger window I have into somebody's life, and like their, how they think, and, their inner systems, like the more, I can help them. So it's a really high touch support approach where it's like you and I are like partners, and, we're in this together. So yeah, I think a lot of people are drawn to like nutrition because it's relevant, you eat every day, like it, people understand on, a pretty surface level that nutrition is important. So I think that draws people in, and it does set the base for a lot. And then there's like so much more, like so many more layers and nuances to health. So yeah, it's just such I just love that we're getting to work with people in that way. And watch them change and heal.
Yeah. And I think that's a way that you also create the trust with them. Like that's what I found. It was like you go in not knowing what to expect, and then you dive into the nutrition end of it and your history and all of that. But in that process, I'm creating trust with you. And then all of a sudden I feel safe enough to go one more level deeper with you and share this, which then does circle back around to everything that's going on, right? Like it's all involved. It's all the same thing. And so I love that you go so thoroughly. I love from the programs that you have to the communication to like the products, everything. Like it was like a transformative experience. And then I was able to take that and really put major changes into my life moving forward.
I love that, to hear that so much.
Yeah, I will scream that. I will totally scream that, because I do think that as women, we have not been educated on our cycles and what we should be eating, how we should be fueling and sleeping. And like, I just think that once you start to live by your cycle, expecting certain times of the week, like in certain days, you're going to be feeling a certain way. So like, even I started to not schedule presentations or big like moments where I knew I had to speak and be on during my cycle that I knew I was going to be more of a hermit crab, So there's ways to actually set yourself up for success, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can definitely speak to this. It doesn't have to be perfect. No. It like a little bit goes a long way, and just doing what you can, where you can. And like the more you put into your body and your energy, the more overflow you have, and the more space for things to not be perfect there is. And that's really what all of this is about. I think people tend to think of health as like this rigid thing. You have to be like on this strict diet and like you can't have fun. But really, health is so that you can live your life and be present and have fun and experience things and people. And because when you're sick or when you're not healthy, it's just, you just want to be healthy and energized. Yeah. But when you're healthy and energized, you can just be present. You don't have to your health doesn't have to be like a project. It's just a byproduct of how you live. It
affects every single area of your life, every single area. And so, so what are 3 easy tips that people can start, in their day-to-day that you could suggest to get them to sort of dip their toe into more, I don't want a healthier lifestyle, but more of a, a balanced day-to-day?
Absolutely. I would say 1, get outside. Get sunlight, get fresh air, touch your body to the ground, take your shoes off, go for walks, swim, go for walks outside, get morning sunlight, especially if you live around here. It's like, get out there in the sun when the sun is rising, when the sun is setting. 2, I would say slow down and practice mindfulness. So just, tuning into how your body's feeling, chew when you eat slowly, just be present with what you're drinking and who you're with, and breathe, and just, slow down in whatever capacity is available to you. And 3, just trust your body and know that your body is designed to heal and self-regulate. Even if you don't do anything with that information, just plant a seed and know that your body is here to protect you and to heal. And your body doesn't just make mistakes and malfunction because of bad luck or genetics. It's, things in the body are done with a purpose, and your body is so wildly smart and intelligent, and the intricacies and just the processes of it are just so amazing. And you don't have to understand what all that is and how it's working, but if you can understand just how intelligent it is and you can allow for healing to happen, you will be just blown away by what your body's capable of. So just know that if you suffer with a symptom or disease, that is not your destiny, and that your body loves you, and there's no war between you and your body. And health and healing isn't about eradicating disease and like forcing things to happen. It's about allowance and tuning in and letting your body do its job. So just know how amazing your body is.
Oh, I love that. How do people get a hold of you?
So I'm on Instagram and TikTok, Chelsey Mollin, and through my website or email me. But the easiest and quickest way is for people to just message me on Instagram. And I love to chat with people and connect with people. And I'm on there, and yeah.
Yes, you do. You do a great job with that. You're so warm and welcoming, and you really make people feel safe enough to start to really tackle some of these things that so many of us avoid. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so grateful that you have come into my life and that you are here right in Syracuse for so many to use. And so thank you for being here with me, Chelsey.
Thanks for having me. And I'm also grateful to be connected with you, and really is an honor to work with you in the way that we have. So thanks for coming along on the journey. And I'm glad that it's been helpful for you.
Yes, you're stuck with me. You're stuck with me. All right. Have a good day.
Okay. Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks.